thank you all for joining us this morning. All across New York, at places just like this former metal processing facility, you can see that the footprint of our state's manufacturing tradition that powered us through the 20th century, with our large manufacturers leading the way. But as the Industrial Revolution came and went, jobs taken away with it, contaminated land has been left behind where our factories once stood. These abandoned sites, known as brownfields, are home to so much potential to help our economy grow today. But before they can be home to new businesses and new jobs, they have to be cleaned up first. There are between 450,000 and 1 million abandoned contaminated sites around the country. Redeveloping our brownfield sites is a proven, effective way to revitalize communities and boost the economy through private investment and business development, job creation, community development, and overall quality of life in the area. Though, through assessing and cleaning up blighted, contaminated, or abandoned sites, communities are able to redevelop them into usable, livable areas that can drive new economic growth and job creation. Across New York, I've seen these efforts firsthand, and I know the promise of future development that is within our reach. Today, I'm announcing a new effort to help redevelop sites like this across the country through a bill called the Brownfields Utilization Investment and Local Development Act, the BUILD Act. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation that I think can be passed this year. It works by strengthening the Brownfields program by providing additional tools and resources to communities working to redevelop brownfields. Specifically, the bill recognizes that the cost of cleaning up past contamination is a barrier to bringing brownfield sites back into markets by increasing the funding ceiling for cleanup grants and allowing funds to be used also for administrative costs. It allows for multi-purpose grants that will speed redevelopment by streamlining and increasing certainty on the cleanup process. It expands eligibility for site assessment grants to not-for-profit organizations. Currently, not-for-profits and community-based organizations are eligible for cleanup grants, but not the assessment grants. It also allows local governments to apply for site assessment grants for properties that were acquired by a community before the creation of the Brownfields program. The provision of the BUILD Act would also allow more brownfields to be evaluated for contamination without eliminating the local government's liability to clean up the site. The legislation includes a section on waterfront brownfield sites, a bill that I introduced last year. This provision would authorize grants to address the needs that are unique to waterfront sites, including wetlands, dredged materials, flooding, and the environmental infrastructure and navigation needs. Makes clean energy projects at brownfield sites eligible for funding, including facilities that will generate electricity from wind, solar, and geothermal. These are the kinds of smart investments that we can make in our communities all across New York to attract new businesses and create new jobs, transforming our former industrial areas into places for New Yorkers to work, play, and raise a family. And with the leaders behind me, I know that we will achieve this result. Our next speaker is Congressman Dan Maffei, who has been a champion for brownfields legislation his entire time in Congress. He's also someone who speaks very, very profoundly on behalf of the middle class. Dan?
Thank you. We are always very honored to have Senator Gillibrand when she comes to Syracuse or Central New York, but particularly for this program. This is such an important program for Central New York. Obviously, where we're located, we have tremendous natural resources, a tremendous workforce, great land, great water. It's a great place to raise a family. I think it's the best place in the world to raise a family. But we also have these kind of industrial sites, and we need to utilize them in new ways, repurpose them, if you will. This program was incredibly valuable until it expired in 2006. It can be valuable again, and the wonderful thing about this particular legislation, which myself and Louise Slaughter will be championing on the House side, is that it does make even more improvements, and it looks to the future going further into the 21st century. Some of the things that are really key to this are it gives new tools to Mayor Minor and other mayors around to make sure that they can take full advantage of them. It allows local governments to apply for site grants. It opens it up to more nonprofits like the Syracuse Community Health Center, which is taking advantage of this particular one. It makes it so that it'll be a much better thing for both the private and public and nonprofit sectors, all three of these, to work on together. And it's that cooperation that makes it so important. I want to particularly thank, though, Senator Gillibrand, because her work on this, both in terms of championing it on the Environment and Public Works Committee, I think that's what you call it in the Senate, right? Environment and Public Works Committee in the Senate, and with the Obama administration, is going to make a huge difference. And her Waterfield Brownfields Revitalization Act, which she is the author of, is absolutely key to things like the new plan at the harbor. So at the Inner Harbor. So we have so much to be excited about with this legislation. It's bipartisan. If you look at the co-sponsors, I think you will see that even in an era when Washington can't do anything, this is an area where we can move forward. We need to move forward. We need to make lemons in a lemonade, if you will. We need to make these brownfields green again, green both in terms of the natural land and green in terms of the dollars they'll bring to Central New York. Thank you.
Our next speaker is our mayor, Stephanie Miner, who has been a champion for redevelopment and growth in our beautiful city of Syracuse. Mayor?
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Congressman. Pleased to have Senator, you here as always, and of course, Congressman Maffei, who is here. You know, as we talk about an economy that is transitioning and older industrial cities transitioning, it is tools like the Brownfield Acts that allow us to develop this land and take what are unperforming assets and make them performing assets. And candidly, without tools like this, we just would not be able to deal with the environmental issues that come along with having been an industrial powerhouse in the 20th century. But acts like this help us transition into the 21st century by taking our assets, having the government help us put people to work by bringing these plots of land, making them environmentally sustainable again, and then helping us to develop and helping us ultimately give services to the people of our community. And on this very site with the Syracuse Community Health Center, that's what we will be able to do. So this is really a home run. It will help us redevelop this land. It will help us make the land healthier and better and more sustainable, and also in the end put people to work and help us make sure that the people of the city of Syracuse and the surrounding region are healthy, because it's the Syracuse Community Health Center that's going to be here, and they do fantastic work. And I see a number of people over there, so I want to thank you for all the work that you do, and of course Dr. Cohort, who's back here, and thank him for the tremendous work that you do and the service that you perform for our community. So again, without tools like this, we would not be able to make this transition. I want to thank Senator Gillibrand and Congressman Maffei for being leaders in this and helping us put people back to work here in Syracuse. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Charles Canale, the Syracuse Community Center Board Chair.
Thank you, Senator, and I want to welcome you to the Syracuse Community Health Center, along with our frequent visitor, Mayor Miner, and Congressman McVeigh, and others who have always very supportive of the center and its efforts. This is a valuable program that will benefit not only the Community Health Center, but also the community. The center is committed to provide primary care with events happening state and nationally. The Affordable Care Act, it's essential that we move ahead and develop the state-of-the-art primary care center, which will be happening in the next year and a half. So again, we want to thank the participants that are here today for working with us and moving forward and fully implementing all the programs at the center. Thanks very much, everyone.
Our last speaker is Deb Warner, Center State CEO, Vice President, Public Policy and Government Relations. Deb.
Well, first of all, thank you, Senator, for your support for this program, your work on the bill, and this important new tool that we're going to have, hopefully, for brownfield redevelopment. Brownfield redevelopment is important to our city, but it's also important to our entire region. Our industrial history has left us, unfortunately, a legacy of many environmentally distressed properties. We've been pretty great at in our community at remediating some of these sites. We've got some astounding successes to talk about and take pride in, such as Onondaga Lake, the Paper Mill Island in Baldwinsville and Destiny and others. But there are so many polluted sites that remain in our region. But these sites can have a future if we have tools like this to work with. And these sites can house new businesses, be homes to new residents, and be returned to the tax rolls. But redevelopment of these sites is very expensive and getting more expensive all the time. So we need these tools and all the tools that we can get to make projects work and bring these sites back to life. The BUILD Act will add a very important new tool for redevelopment of these sites. One of the important things that the BUILD Act does is increase the funding for remediation grants. The cost of these sites remediation is increasing, and the average cleanup is more than $600,000. So it makes a lot of sense to increase that limit now to $650,000. Center State CEO, on behalf of the businesses in our region, is pleased to support this administration. We're grateful, Senator and Congressman, for your work on the BUILD Act, and we join with you in supporting this legislation. So thank you so much. We look forward to its passage.
Any on-topic questions we can take from the podium? Off-topic, we'll take directly.
Pointed out that it costs an average of $600,000. Isn't that, you need this bill to keep up with the rate of inflation?
That's one of the changes in the bill. It increases the grant size to $500,000, so it can cover more of the cost.
Congressman Maffei spoke about the bipartisan nature of this proposal.
So far, we have Senator Crapo from Indiana and Senator Inhofe from Oklahoma also on our bill, along with a handful of Democrats.
I'm wondering whether that bipartisanship extends to the House.
The bill was just recently introduced, so we believe it will, certainly in New York, but I think in other parts of the country as well. But we'll get back to you on that as soon as we have a sort of full list of co-sponsors.
Congressman, about 10 days ago, the House Appropriations Committee released an environmental spending plan that cuts funding for brownfield grants. So I guess on that, I mean, is there the bipartisanship, or will this counteract that, or what will that do for?
There are a lot of cuts that were passed in the House Appropriations Committee. I think some of those will may be able to even change on the floor, but there's no question that we're going to have to be working with the Senate, and the Senate's going to have to be the stronger of the two houses in terms of making sure that we fund things like this and other things like the Great Lakes Initiative, which was also cut recently by the House. But the wonderful thing about our system is you can't pass a bill without both the House and the Senate. And that's why it's so vitally important that we have a champion like Kirsten Gillibrand, who knows these issues well, who's from upstate New York, who's on the Environment and Public Works Committee. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there are some cuts in the House side of this that are penny wise and pound foolish. That said, though, I'm pretty confident that when we get to conference, Senator Gillibrand, working with Senator Schumer and others, will be able to get these back in. Senator, do you want to?
No, I think that's right.
Senator, I don't know if you know about this or if maybe Mr. Cowart does, but what's going on with this facility? Does this need that program to go forward? I mean, there's obviously a plan here that we have a picture of, et cetera. Where are we at in this project?
Point of clarification and answering your question specifically, what's going on with this building? Well, as the senator explained, Brownfield is identified specifically with this building primarily because of its historical usage. This building specifically is intended to be the beginning or the first phase of a multi-phased revitalization of these two blocks, the 800 block and the 900 block of South Salina Street. It will be demolished. You should see cranes in the air next month, and it will be one of three buildings that will be demolished. This building, plus the building to your immediate left, and the building immediately behind this. And in approximately 3 years from now, or less, we would expect to see then that these two blocks, the 800 block and the 900 block, to be converted into a Syracuse Community Health Center's Center Healthcare Campus. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, I guess the question is do you need the support of this act to go forward? This one, it seems like it's already in the works. Do you need this act for the brownfield cleanup monies, to go forward with like all the different parts of the
Oh,
plan?
let me just answer your question. I'm glad you asked that question. Of course we need this act. And certainly the act, certainly the byproducts of the act will certainly help us do all that we're attempting to do. And certainly it will make it a lot less traumatic to achieve what we're attempting to achieve and we're planning to achieve. So to answer your question, yes, definitely so. But we also need to, I know you didn't ask this question, but we got some individuals behind me that have always been supportive of all that we have done. And specifically, it helps serve as a catalyst for helping the mayor to do what we are planning, she is planning to do, and has historically done to help revitalize this quarter of the certainly downtown Syracuse. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.